Welcome, everyone, to the C-Suite Marketing Perspectives podcast. I'm Steve McDonald, your host. And today we've got a co-founder and head of marketing, Dave Rigotti, on. And Dave, you founded Inflection.io. And we're going to have you explain a little bit more about what that is. But what we're going to be talking about today is a subject matter that you are very passionate about, that what should marketing be doing a lot more of? Undervaluing certain aspects of the business that can drive incredible portions of revenue, and specifically undervaluing NRR. So before we get into that, I want to have everybody get a little bit more of a understanding of your background. You've worked at Microsoft and you've worked at Adobe and the things that you've done and you're doing now. Maybe you can expand on your background just a little bit, and then we'll get into why you think marketers are undervaluing NRR.
Sweet. Thanks so much, Steve. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be on the podcast. And yeah, I'm excited to talk today about my favorite three-letter acronym, NRR. I talk so much about product-led growth that maybe you think PLG is my favorite three-letter acronym, but it's actually NRR. And so excited to get into that on why that's the case and just how marketing can really own NRR and be such a big contributor to the business. And yeah, my background is pretty straightforward. I spent a number of years at Microsoft, out of college, did big co, learned marketing, learned how to work with big budgets. I had a good time doing that, but I knew I wanted to go to, and so I landed at a startup in 2013 called Bizible, Bizible, as the first marketing hire. I think we were about 5 or 6 employees and grew up with that company, if you will, as we scaled the business to, I think we were about 120 employees when we sold to Marketo in 2018. Visible is a B2B marketing attribution product. I think it's now called Marketo Engage Measure, like something like that. I don't even know anymore. And so the company got acquired by Marketo, and so I went from head of marketing at Visible to running Marketo's account-based marketing program and enterprise demand gen. And then soon after that, like 6 months after I got into Marketo, Marketo got acquired by Adobe. And so I spent another couple years at Adobe working on account-based marketing and enterprise demand gen, supporting a portfolio of products. And then in 2020 left to co-found Inflection.io. It's a marketing automation product built for kind of the modern marketing technology stack or the modern data stack, if you will. So marketing automation that connects them with like data warehouses and product data. And it's been a blast these last couple of years.
So just a short bit, but what is with Inflection? What's the unique difference that you're bringing to the market, the attribution company?
Yeah, Inflection's all about marketing automation, and traditional B2B marketing automation like a Marketo or a HubSpot is fantastic if all of the data you care about lives in the CRM. They're essentially CRM apps. So if the data lives in Salesforce, great, go get Marketo. With Inflection, we work with mostly product-led companies because the CRM is no longer the center of the universe of data. And so there's a lot of data that lives in CDPs or product tracking data like a segment, and also in data warehouses like Redshift and Snowflake. So we make it really easy to bring in all of this data from the product and other sources like a data warehouse to go build and orchestrate campaigns off of more than just like Salesforce data.
Fantastic. That's fascinating. That could be a whole podcast episode maybe we'll have you back on for. But let's turn the focus over here to NRR. And if you could just start us out with the basics, an explanation of what NRR is and why it's important.
Yeah, absolutely. NRR is net revenue retention. If you're a CEO on this podcast, listening to this podcast, or a success leader, you've been talking about it for 10 years, but it's pretty new to marketing and even to sales to some degree. And really what NRR is all about is, are you getting more from your existing customers than you're losing? So if you have 100% NRR, if you started the year with $1 million, you would end the year with $1 million in revenue, even if you didn't add any new customers. And most SaaS companies run less than 100% NRR. You have churn, and your upgrades don't cover the difference with churn. And so most SaaS companies are running like 90% NRR. The best companies, which we'll talk more about, are well over 100% NRR. When you're over 100% net revenue retention, that means if you started the year, let's say you're at 120% NRR. If you started the year at $1 million, you would end the year at $1.2 million, even if it didn't bring in any net new customers. So you're growing 20% without having to acquire new customers. It's amazing.
As CMOs, we're trained to be very revenue focused, but very
Right.
pipeline revenue
Right.
focused,
That's
like
right.
net new versus the land and expand is what you're talking about here. But we've all been trained since before we were in school, everything, the idea that it's so much easier to get more business from an existing customer than it is to land a net new customer. So the
Yeah.
premise shouldn't be new to any of us. And that's really the fundamentals of NRR is we're leaving revenue on the table if we're not putting time, energy, and resources
That's
into
right.
customer marketing.
That's right. That's exactly right. And for 10 years, I was gold on net new pipeline. That was my metric as a marketing leader and running a marketing team. And that was what I drove to. And that's what I cared about. The customer marketing that I did, my team that was doing customer marketing was more focused on customer advocacy, maybe getting some more G2 reviews, helping sales get intros to customers when they want to grease the wheels on a deal, or maybe helping customers get placed at events. All great things, core to customer advocacy. What this is all about is really shifting customer marketing from just being customer advocacy to being almost like a demand generation team, like having the like insights and the data and running methodical campaigns that are driving customer usage of the product and methodical campaigns that are driving kind of upgrades and upsells within customers, just like demand gen, just like the amount of energy you would put in on somebody downloading your ebook, go put that exact same energy into expanding customers and getting them to use the product more, and you'll go make a lot more money.
I saw it on one of your LinkedIn posts that you were saying we generally spend about 20 times as much on trying to acquire new customers as we do on existing customers because we think we've got a customer success group. We've got a product group that's innovating and we're talking to them. And there's an onboarding sequence that we've created. So we've done the job as marketers. We've got them in, and we've got the systems with the processes internally to take care of them. That's what we have customer success. Why isn't that good enough?
Yeah, go look at your churn. And if you're happy with churn, the churn number you have, then great, you're doing good enough. You're doing what you're set out to do. And if you're churning 20% a year and that's what you're happy with, or even 10% of the year on NRR, so your NRR is 90%, if you're happy with that as a marketing team, great. Like you've done what you signed up to do, but really, like, you shouldn't be. And honestly, CEOs need to go have a real conversation with their CMOs about how important NRR is, and CEOs need to change the metrics for marketing that marketing signs up for NRR. Because really, if you go look at it, once you get to 100% NRR, you start to become unstoppable. Like, it's really hard for even macro headwinds, like macroeconomic headwinds, to slow you down. If you get to 120% NRR, like, you're going to IPO. At that point, just a matter of when. Go look at the best SaaS companies out there that are public. They have an average NRR of 120%. Even like Snowflake, some of the best ones have 150% or more. And so CEOs they can generally come down on the CS team about this. Go improve churn, go improve NRR. We're going to bonus you chief customer officer on NRR, or have commissions on the CS team for upgrades, stuff like that. I think it needs to come back to marketing too, because there really is a lot that marketing can do, that marketing can own, and that is low hanging fruit. A really easy one is product onboarding. And I always use that one because most product onboarding, you sign up for the product and then you start getting a drip campaign. Every 24 hours, you get a new step. Go do this thing, go do this thing. A really easy thing to go change is to change that to not be a 24-hour delay, but make it based on product usage. So if somebody's already done step number 3, don't send them an email the next day that says, go do step number 3. Just send them step number 4. Great, they've already done it. Don't send them any instructions to do it again. Or if they haven't done step number 3, the next day, don't send them step number 4. Send them a reminder to do step number 3. And if you were to like map that out on like a mural or something, that is just like an inbound demand gen flow. Like, it looks the same. It just happens to be like, instead of getting people to request a demo or sign up for a product, it's to actually like onboard and really adopt the product. Marketing's really good at that. And this is like such an awesome opportunity for marketing to lean in. I've seen companies shift their onboarding from being a drip to being based on product activity data, boost their onboarding activation rates by 20%. 20%. Like, what? It's probably the easiest thing you could go do that in a year from now would have a huge impact on churn and NRR. And you know what? When you have better NRR metrics, that eases the burden on the rest of the marketing team from having to fill the gap with net new customers. If you're at 100% NRR, great. That was 10% of your revenue. If you're at 90% before, that's 10% of your revenue. You don't have to go get new people, net new customers from. You've already halfway there to your goal. So it eases the burden on acquisition so much more too. So it's such an easy thing to go change.
We interview a lot of CMOs on this podcast, and we do a series on why do B2B CMOs fail so quickly. And they do. And there's a lot of reasons, but one of the main ones is silos of different departments. That's their job, that's their role, not the right relationships. And one of the biggest relationships that is severely limited, yes, the CMO and the CRO, but the CFO, because CFO is looking at marketing as one of the biggest cost centers. And if you could show your CMO that you've got a plan that is improving NRR, that is contributing to bottom line revenue, and like you said, costly expenditures. You talk about 3 days worth of work to redo your onboarding process. That is like a no brainer versus I'm going to go spend X number of dollars trying to create a demand gen campaign. If you think about it in that way, most CMOs today are thinking about how do I not only create revenue, how do I create the relationships internally? How do I keep my job for more than 18, 20 months? Because that's where it's really down. And you're giving some recommendations that are really good, really basic, but make really good sense.
Yeah. A huge reason CMOs fail is most marketing takes a long time to really see the output of. It takes 2 years to see any returns from content marketing. It takes at least a year to put on a good event. Maybe you have to wait for the next year too. The first year is just a test. So much of marketing takes 6 months, a year, 2 years to really see the fruition of. With NRR and expanding customers, that is like sending an email and printing money. Like you can go as a CMO, work with your team, you can literally drive that new revenue and expansions in a month. So one, it's like the time horizon for having impact is very, very, very quick. Two, like you said, people aren't coming to the CEO with solutions for NRR. The CEO is always going to sales and being like, hey, make sure you get customers that are going to stay more than a year. And then they're like always coming down in success leaders about churn and upgrades. Why aren't we doing more? Like marketing, what an awesome way to come to the CEO, CFO, hey, here's a plan for us on how we can improve NR, how we can improve expansions. We need to carve out demand gen time to do this or hire another demand gen person that is just focused on this. If you're over 5 million ARR, you will go get more, way more than a demand gen person's salary in a month. So it's such an easy way to go get another headcount, just go have somebody focus on it. But people aren't bringing solutions for NRR from a marketing angle nearly as much as probably they could. And the CEOs probably don't know to ask at marketing to go focus on it. And it always comes back to CMOs aren't gold on revenue. They aren't gold on NRR. They're gold on net new pipeline. So even if you're gold on net new pipeline, come to the CEO with solutions.
One of the things you said about that time lag, there was actually a study that was done, and it was done with CMOs who were actually fired. And what was found is that 4 out of the 5 were unjustly fired due to performance because of the time lag that it takes to put marketing campaigns into place. So what you're saying is absolutely true. I think we all understand that from just a sense of that makes good sense, but it's actually proven that's the case. And from what you're talking about here, we do a lot of work as marketers of putting together the buyer's journey, creating content and demand for every stage of the buyer's journey. You've got now customers that once they've made the decision to purchase, their goal is to actually make it work. They've made an investment. You've got them on your side. And really, when it comes right down to it, all you're doing is you're saying, let's make it easier. And what I love is the recommendation to have it be product usage based, because that's automatically meeting them on their journey. We work so hard at that buyer's journey to meet them at the right and appropriate stages. You have real verifiable proof of exactly what stage they're at in your onboarding process. You know that 100%. There's no guesswork, and there's a lot of guesswork on the other side. So if you could, tell us maybe your dealings in the past or currently with the company you're in right now. What are some stories about changing that focus and making some real improvements on NRR?
Yeah. I think it's probably how I didn't change NRR. All of my time at Visible and Marketo, so this is a 7-year run running marketing or running a marketing team at Adobe focused on Marketo. I was always focused on net new pipeline, obsessed with it. Like, how much do we generate? Net new pipeline do we generate today, this week? What ops? All kinds of stuff. But very focused on how do I get more people to request a demo? At Visible, we grew a great business, had a great business. We had a good exit to Marketo. I bet if our NRR was over 100%, would we have sold the company? Would we have had a different outcome that would have been even bigger? Would I be talking to you not as maybe co-founder of Inflection or former Marketo employee? Would I be talking to you about as the marketing leader at a public company that maybe bought Marketo? Something like that. It's actually possible. It's much more possible. So I look back at some of the biggest mistakes that I made when I was running marketing, and then at a Marketo too, same thing, net new pipeline. If I had spent even 20% of my time, and it probably should have been more 40% or even 50% of my time on NRR and thinking about churn and expansions much more and how marketing can play a role in that, I think it would have been a different outcome for the company. Again, it was a fine outcome, but I bet it would have been a very different outcome if I had spent that energy. And I had a customer marketing team, and they did a great job with customer advocacy, but they didn't have that demand gen kind of mindset on what are these methodical campaigns and tests that we're running, and what are we doing to support sales in this endeavor. We had 40 BDRs at Visible when we sold, cold calling for net new pipeline. We had 0 people dedicated in that kind of role for expansions. If we had an SDR just calling customers to talk about features that they're not using or the next higher tier in their plan and enabling them and being these like product solution specialists, we left a lot of money on the table doing that. It's a big regret. One of my biggest regrets.
From what I'm hearing you talk now, and you say the average company's more at 90%, so 100% is good, 120% you're golden.
Yeah.
From how you're talking here, dedicating an SDR, just working with email campaigns, having a demand gen mentality and how you're approaching this, it sounds like what you're saying is it shouldn't be that hard for you to go from at least 90 to 100%, if not more.
It's pretty hard.
Okay.
It is hard. I don't want to diminish how hard it is, but there's low hanging fruit there and the juice is worth the squeeze.
So part of what you're saying is, hey, we work really hard at demand gen. We should be working as hard at this as well.
Exactly.
Are you advocating for similar size budgets, or are you saying we can do a lot less or a lot more with a lot less? We just need to be smarter about it. What side of the recommendation are you on here?
I haven't met any company that is spending more than 5% of their time or budget on customer expansions. I would love to see a company see how high they can go to where it doesn't work, just like we do for every marketing channel. We keep spending on Google Ads until it diminishes and it doesn't work. We keep spending on events until it diminishes and it doesn't work. I've never seen anyone get to the point where customer expansions and customer adoption and customer expansions, I've never seen anyone get there. So I don't know the ceiling. I would love to find out and I would love to see that. Maybe we'll be the first company that gets there. We never had over 100% NRR at Visible. We have over 100% NRR here at Inflection. At Visible, we were very focused on net new revenue and our ARR number. Here, we're almost more focused on NRR than even ARR. Day one, we're over 100% NRR, or really after year one, we were over 100% NRR. 3 years in, we're still well over 100% NRR. And my hope is that fast forward 20 years from now, or 17 years, we'll have 20 straight years of over 100% NRR. And that's just being a second time team. We're thinking about it a little bit differently and a little less obsessed with ARR and a lot more obsessed with NRR and getting the right customers in that are going to expand in the future. And it's not easy, but it's worth it.
That was just your mental time. You run marketing for the company now, and you're a co-founder, so you've got all kinds of vested interest. So your focus on NRR is an indication. Actions speak louder than words. What percentage of your time do you think you spend focused more on NRR versus net new?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm probably a quarter of my time on NRR and customer campaigns. A lot of them are related to driving onboarding and adoption and usage of our product. we're still a pretty early stage startup. We're not like Marketo scale where we have a second product or a third product or fourth product we could cross selling into customers. And bigger companies should definitely be spending more time, more than a quarter of their time on that. But yeah, I'm probably a quarter of my time on it and very focused on using product data to drive better onboarding, product adoption, and just being with our customers a lot on how they're using the product and being inspired by them.
So if there was one thing that you wanted people to take away from everything that we've talked about here today, what would that be?
If you're a CEO, goal marketing on NR or have that be a metric that marketing is tied to. And if you're a CMO and you're not tied to NRR, spend some time pretending like you are. Pretend like your CEO just asked you to go spend time on NRR and make a deck. Go talk with the team, make a deck on what would be the NRR plan, and go share that with the CEO. The CEO's never seen that before. And you'll be in their good graces and you'll be doing a lot for the company.
That's a fantastic takeaway. If people had questions after listening to this, would providing them a link on your LinkedIn profile, would that be a good way for people to get a hold of you and ask questions?
Yeah, anyone can ping me on LinkedIn. You can just search Dave Rigotti. We'll provide the URL. Or you can just email me, dave@inflection.io. Happy to geek out on NRR with anyone. It's obviously a
Sounds
passionate
great.
topic. And I think the beauty of the internet is to get really specific on the topics that you're passionate about and find others that are as well.
I've had fun geeking out on NRR today. So thank you very much. I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And thanks everyone for listening.